Derby awaited them, seated in the Gothic carved oak chair formerly occupied by the abbots of Whalley on the occasion of conferences or elections. The earl was surrounded by his officers, and the chamber was filled with armed men. The abbot slowly advanced towards the earl. His deportment was dignified and firm, ever majestic. The exaltation of spirit, occasioned by the interview with Demdike and his wife, had passed away, and was succeeded by a profound calm. The hue of his cheek was livid, but otherwise he seemed wholly unmoved. The ceremony of delivering up the bodies of the prisoners to the earl was gone through by the sheriff, and their sentences were then read aloud by a clerk. After this, the earl, who had hitherto remained covered, took off his cap, and in a solemn voice spoke. "John Paslew, sometime Abbot of Whalley, but now an attainted and condemned felon, and John Eastgate and William Haydock, formerly brethren of the same monastery, and confederates with him in crime, ye have heard your doom. To morrow you shall die the ignominious death of traitors. But the King, in his mercy, having regard not so much to the heinous nature of your offences towards his sovereign Majesty, as to the sacred offices you once held, and of which you have been shamefully deprived, is graciously pleased to remit that part of your sentence whereby ye are condemned to be quartered alive, willing that the hearts which conceived so much malice and violence against him should cease to beat within your own bosoms, and that the arms which were raised in rebellion against him should be interred in one common grave with the trunks to which they belong." "God save the high and puissant King, Henry the Eighth, and free him from all traitors!" cried the clerk. "We humbly thank his Majesty for his clemency," said the abbot, amid the profound silence that ensued; "and pray you, my good lord, when you shall write to the King concerning us, to say to his Majesty that we died penitent of many and grave offences, among the which is chiefly that of having taken up arms unlawfully against him, but that we did so solely with the view of freeing his highness from evil counsellors, and of re establishing our holy church, for the which we would willingly die, if our death might in any ways profit it." "Amen!" exclaimed Father Eastgate, who stood with his hands crossed upon his breast, close behind Paslew. "The abbot hath uttered my sentiments." "He hath not uttered mine," cried Father Haydocke. "I ask no grace from the bloody Herodias, and will accept none. What I have done I would do again, were the past to return. Nay, I would do more. I would find a way to reach the tyrant's heart, and thus free our church from its worst enemy, and the land from a ruthless oppressor." "Remove him," said the earl. "The vile traitor shall be dealt with as he merits. For you," he added, as the order was obeyed, and addressing the other prisoners, "and especially you, John Paslew, who have shown some compunction for your crimes, and to prove to you that the King is not the ruthless tyrant he hath been just represented, I hereby, in his name, promise you any boon which you may ask consistently with your situation. What favour would you have shown you?" The abbot reflected for a moment. "Speak thou, John Eastgate," said the Earl of Derby, seeing that the abbot was occupied in thought. "If I may proffer a request, my lord," replied the monk, "it is that our poor distraught brother, William Haydock, be spared the quartering block. He meant not what he said." "Well, be it as thou wilt," replied the earl, bending his brows, "though he ill deserves such grace. Now, John Paslew, what wouldst thou?" Thus addressed, the abbot looked up. "I would have made the same request as my brother, John Eastgate, if he had not anticipated me, my lord," said Paslew; "but since his petition is granted, I would, on my own part, Entreat that mass be said for us in the convent church. Many of the brethren are without the abbey, and, if permitted, will assist at its performance." "I know not if I shall not incur the king's displeasure in assenting," replied the Earl of Derby, after a little reflection, "but I will hazard it. Mass for the dead shall be said in the church at midnight, and all the brethren who choose to come thither shall be permitted to assist at it. They will attend, I doubt not, for it will be the last time the rites of the Romish Church will be performed in these walls. They shall have all required for the ceremonial." "Heaven's blessings on you, my lord," said the abbot. "But first pledge me your sacred word," said the earl, "by the holy office you once held, and by the saints in whom you trust, that this concession shall not be made the means of any attempt at flight." "I swear it," replied the abbot, earnestly. "And also I swear it," added Father Eastgate. "Enough," said the earl. "I will give the necessary orders. Notice of the celebration of mass at midnight shall be proclaimed without the abbey. Now remove the prisoners." Upon this the captive ecclesiastics were led forth. Father Eastgate was taken to a strong room in the lower part of the chapter house, where all acts of discipline had been performed by the monks, and where the knotted lash, the spiked girdle, and the hair shirt had once hung, while the abbot was conveyed to his old chamber, which had been prepared for his reception, and there left alone. CHAPTER 5.